everybody, I'm Allison Cope and welcome to Power Poppy. Today we're going to have some fun with some Copic markers and we're going to kind of color our image today with a glow. I don't know where we're going with this exactly because you're along for the ride just like me. I have an idea in my head, but who knows what our end result is going to look like. So join me at my scrubby desk and we'll get started. So I've cut myself a piece of artist marker paper by the Bee Company. And we're going to be using the Hellebore and the Hyacinth stamp set. And I have already taken my stamp and placed my paper into my mini Misty with some Memento London Fog ink. And we've already got an image here. So I've got my lovely hex chart from Sandy Allnock to use as a color reference, and we're going to get started here. So I've got my trusty dusty color chart here. We're going to start with a Y00. I want to use the Y00 to mark out where the light is going to hit my image and it's going to capture it on the flower. So I think we're going to do our light coming in from this direction. I'm not perfect. Really is an experiment. So anything that's basically on that side and close to our source of light there, I'm going to just kind of hint at a yellow base here. Sometimes the flower petals are folded in, so it's only going to hit certain parts. Some of them are only going to be the inner edge, like these ones are going to catch it because they're cupped. These ones will kind of be on the darker side. You might get a little teeny hint of light pickup on that one. This one is completely kind of turned, but this edge is definitely going to catch some light. So, like I said, not perfect. Just doing a general sense of where I think that bright light is going to hit. And I'm working my way kind of this way. And it's going to be not as bright over here because you're going to get your brighter hits of light on this side as it's closer to the light source. So this bud is going to get a little teeny bit, and for the most part just a hint here and there on this side, and not going to catch too much at all. So that at least gets us a start. Sorry, glass is out of view here, so I just put a little bit in the water. And I'm going to work on the blooms here. So let's go for a little bit brighter yellow. I'm going to continue to add to the highlight and the bright. Like I said, I never really know where my coloring or my card design is going because I like just creating and going with the flow and seeing what comes up. I mean, we all make mistakes, so that happens too. So I just embrace them, learn from them, and go on to my next project knowing something I can improve for the next time. So again, just brightening up the areas that glow is going to be caught on. There we go. And I want them, of course, they're going to be harsh. I mean, this is bright yellow. This is not subtle by any means. It's not meant to be subtle. Go down here on the stem. And there's a little bit more brightness. Now I think I'll go in and we'll do our very, very dark shadows. So I think I'm going to pull in, I'm going to do my shadows, I think, in tones of gray. So I'm going to start with my darkest. I'm going to start with a C7. The cool grays have kind of an underlying blue hint to them, and I think that would suit the shadows of this. So we're going to start with the shadows that are the deepest, and of course that would be anything that's kind of tucked under where the light's not hitting, the blooms are blocking it, that kind of thing. I go in with a YG67 over those shadows. Once again, I think this leaf is very much tucked behind, and I'm going to go in a YG63 and just go over everything here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and continue to color my leaves and stemware, and then we'll go on to the next thing. Add shadows to the not so dark leaves, I'm going to start with a C4 as a base and just add that in as my shadow, because these leaves I don't think would be as dark. Just being careful, there's a little stem there. I'll go around that bud. I don't think they'd be as dark because they're sitting out in front on the light side. So you'd still have some shadow. You just wouldn't have as dark a shadow. Same with this leaf. I don't think would be as in shadow. I think I'm going to go in and darken this a little bit more. I think I'm going to try a C5 here, just because I don't think it's quite dark enough. Just add that C5 right over top, and that just deepens it just ever so slightly, but it totally kind of makes more sense for value in comparison. And actually, maybe even just a touch of our C7 just right there. And of course you can go in with your darkest green again, just a touch, just to make that green cast come back. All right, so let's work on this grouping of leaves here. Again, I think it would be recessed, but not as recessed as this. So let's go and put our foundation of C5 like we added up here. So this would probably be the darkest spot underneath this leaf here, and possibly a little bit tucked in behind that bud. So I kind of think that it's kind of rounded, so have a little bit of shadow there. This leaf is sitting underneath the open bloom. We'll give it a little bit of a shadow there. This leaf is tucked behind these two. And I'm going to assume that this one is kind of curved, so the light is catching the front edge. And let's see, this one is going to have a little bit of a shadow to the center. I mean, this is all your very own interpretation. Now, there's a tiny bit of leaf and stem behind here. This, oops, I grabbed the wrong one. I'm going to put in my C7 to really push it back. I'm going to touch a C7 just under that leaf. Maybe just a touch of C7, blah, 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 there, just to push those edges back. All right, so let's go in with our YG again. And of course, I'm going to blend these edges in a little bit more. I'm going to assume this one's a little bit lighter because it is sitting on the top. So I'm just going to use the 63, the YG 63. All right. And this one too, I'm just going to maintain. I'm going to go in with the 63 just because I want it to sit on top. So we're going to maintain that with our use of the lighter green. Now I may come in here with my colored pencils too and add some shading to help define the edges. This one, to my knowledge or to my liking, I'm going to put towards the front. So I'm going to stick with the lighter green. And this one I'm going to kind of push towards the back by using my 67. Like I said, you can go in and rework anything that you want. You can let this sit for a day and come back and rework it. It's completely up to you. I'm going to pull in my YG01. It's kind of like this greeny yellow, and I think it will help blend out our highlights a little bit. And make them a little bit more vibrant. And of course we can work on adding even more vibrancy as we go. And I'm just going over some of that lighter green, kind of pulling that value out of the leaf. I'm going to put a little bit up on this one too. It's a little bit more subtle. Okay, it's coming. Like I said, you get to experiment. So still maintain my harsh light source, which I've wanted to do. So that's good. That YG01 helped a lot to kind of blend. We can still go in and rework anything. Let's go and work on our blooms. I'm going to concentrate on the blooms now. I am going to put down a foundation color. This is an RV23. It is very pink. There are so many gorgeous colors of Hellebore. And I love the really beautiful dark ones. They're so rich. I'm trying to maintain those highlight areas. I'm not going to color over the center just yet. I may leave that till very last. I'm trying to avoid the center pieces here, so I don't have to mask them off. I prefer not to have to do that if I can avoid it. Okay, so now we're going to work on the shadows within this. And for that, I'm going to go back to my, I'm going to start with my C5. I may go in and darken, but I'm going to start with a medium tone. With the light coming this way, the centers are going to be very, very deep and dark. Now this one is going to be exposed, but this one is not. So it might be very, very dark in the center. This is going to be very dark because the cup part of that petal is going to totally shade side, absolutely. I mean, just doesn't have to be perfect. Just get an idea. I am going to go in and just shade that like that. Like I said, I'm not perfect at this, but we're sure as heck going to experiment, aren't we? I am going to pull in my C7 just a little bit along that edge, and then we're going to darken that. I'm just kind of putting a bunch of dots, just kind of like a form of shading. Every time I draw, it's always a new creation, a new thought, a new process. I'm constantly learning. I don't know about you guys, but total learning experience here. All right, let's go continue to deepen our color on our bloom. Okay, a little R14. We may have to go and come in and darken the other side of this petal too, because it would very much have a very stark shadow. You can darken a Copic color just by going over it again. You don't actually have to go and find a darker marker. Just go in to take that same color over it again to deepen the color. I'm going to go in RV17 to bring in even more dark hues here. It's got a little bit more of a purple tone to this one. Okay, so I'm going to go in with a C5. I'm just going to work a little bit of shadow on this side of the bloom, just because it would be in some shadow there. So it's starting to evolve. I'm going to go back and fix this edge here. Just going to pull color up. There we go. And I think I will go in with some pencil crayon and define and deepen the edges a little bit. Having the point of the pencil, trying to get into these detailed images, I think will be much easier to deal with. So I'm going to continue on coloring the rest of my blooms, and I'm going to put on some music and enjoy. I'm going to darken this even more here. I'm going to find probably a darker purple red. Try my D39 here. Okay, I'm going to pull in my pencil crayons and see if we can continue to add a little bit more detail, a little bit more finer detail, and go from there. Okay, I'm using my Polychromos, and this one here is mauve. So, because purple isn't as dark as black, it helps a little bit more with shadows without putting of a really dark mark. Means I can go in, because pencil crayons have a finer line obviously, I can go in and add finer details very easily, because the point is so much easier to work with than a Copic marker. Copics, you can only be so fine in your detail. So when you pull out your pencils, you can absolutely go in there and add more definition, add those teeny tiny dark details to just make everything kind of cohesive. Like I said, I'm no expert, but I really enjoy just sitting down and creating for the sake of creating. And if you don't practice, how do you learn? How do you make mistakes? How do you learn, right? So I'm just defining kind of the differences in petals here. Just adding a little bit more shading to allow those lower petals to drop in behind. still think I'm going to have to put a cast of purple just to subdue this, because this is still a little bit bright for my taste. But let's continue to add accents here. I need to go in and fix this. I don't mind the texture that pencil leaves too. It's kind of cool. I mean, nothing is ever flat, flat, flat. So having a little bit of extra bumpy detail that's not smooth just makes it look more realistic, in my opinion. I'm going to go in and put a little bit more medium pink in this fellow here. And I think I will blend it with our G20. Okay, it is slowly evolving. Now we need to deepen and create a little bit more definition in our leaves. So I'm going to pull a dark green. So I've got a polychromos pine green. I'm going to start in this area and see if I can define the top layers versus the ones that are in front, like that the stem for the bud here. See if I can better define this area here. This is a tricky one. Oops. When in doubt, oops, I need my regular eraser. Trying not to do that. You can also go ahead and put detail back into the leaves, such as veining, any detail like that at this point. There would be a very, very, very stark shadow right there, because it's tucked, it's really tucked in there. Go and define that. Trying to differentiate our little leaves here. Could put a little bit of that purple in as well. I think this would be a very shaded and shadowed area in here, and possibly this edge here. Would be very dark in my opinion. Oh, I'm having the hardest time with this green, I tell you. The other option for erasers, and be very, very careful with it, is a mono sand eraser. It has a grit in it, so it erases the mark, but it also eats into your paper, so be very careful when you use this. And don't be afraid to use different mediums together. This is how you develop realism with the finer details. Add your shadows in. Okay. Experiment. And you don't have to have all the colors either. It's been an investment for myself over many, many, many years. My Copic collection alone took me 8 years to get a full, and I don't even have a full collection. There's like a handful of them that I just decided that I don't need. So okay, I'm going to go back here to this little fella. This little fella is going to be very dark. Same with this because he's tucked, 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 tucked.